What's shaking? Hey, I'm Rick Jordan, and today we're going all in. All right, today, there's a friend of mine that hosts an awesome podcast that always says, I got a real treat for you. And I never use that phrase because he does, but today, I got a real treat for you. All right, we're gonna crush this today because this is gonna be awesome. Something that's near and dear to my heart is legacy, especially building like for your family and around your purpose and with other people. You know, outside of being a badass real estate dude, and everything under the sun has to do with faith for him. Today, we're gonna talk about legacy and the foundations that go into that with Cody Bjugan. What's shaking, Cody?
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, brother. I'm excited to talk about legacy today with you. That was a topic you and I chose, and it's been quite a journey understanding the importance of that. So this will be fun.
I think so too. It's and you know, while we were doing a lot of pre-talk, right? I was like, hey, we just need to press record, because what I was about to say is this: that, you know, I want to talk about applicable, practical things, you know, that a lot of every individual can do with legacy. Because it's like, yes, you know, you look on social media, it's like, you know, I say this with all kinds of humility. It's like I surpassed 1 million followers on Instagram, you know, and the engagement's great, top 2% podcast. You've got a lot of accolades yourself. And there's a lot of be like, well, sure, those guys can build legacy. Look at all the resources that they have, right? Underneath, it's like, wait, no, you do too. Like, there's so much around you, you know? So let's go down that route today. Like the practical,
let's do it, man. Hey, brother,
stuff.
You are talking my language, so I'm excited.
I love it, man. I love what you got in the back too. I mean, most of our fans are listeners, right, on audio platforms. But I see behind you, you've got purpose, impact, and fulfillment, and there's so much of that goes into legacy too, dude.
I would say a whole lot of that goes
like
into
everything,
legacy.
right?
Yeah. That's my personal slogan: PIF, purpose, impact, fulfillment. So. You know, I think a lot of people use the word happy. I'm not a fan of the word happy.
Yeah.
I think the word happy is temporary. I think what we're all searching for is fulfillment, whether we know it or not. And talk about legacy, man. Like, you know, you and I, we go build this legacy we're proud of. In order for you to be proud of your legacy, you're going to have a lot of fulfillment in your life.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
how do you define the word legacy?
Well, how do I define the word legacy? I'll just tell you, man, if you don't mind, I'm literally going to read something to you.
Oh, man.
If
you're not watching, Cody just put on his glasses. Here we go.
I did, because I'm 45 now, man. And so I need the glasses. So like on my website, it says one legacy, right? So Rick, you have one legacy. I have one legacy. We don't have two. We don't have three. We only have one shot at creating the legacy that we can be proud of.
Powerful.
So I went through this exact exercise. What is legacy?
Yeah.
And what I did is I took the 6 letters of legacy and I created a pillar for each. Okay. So let me just start off with the L. So we only have one legacy, and that is one. L is lasting faith. So, man, you don't have to believe in the same, but you better have some type of faith, because without faith, we have control issues.
Yeah.
Right. A big part of faith is giving up control. Right. Is that we can't control everything. One of the slogans in my office is believe, action, faith. Believe in whatever it is you're wanting to accomplish, take the action, but at the end of the day, you're not in control of everything, and that's where faith comes in.
Dude, isn't it impossible to take action? I know I'm cutting you off. Like, isn't it impossible to take action without having the faith? Isn't that literally like the expression of your faith can be taking action?
Yes. Well, I think, but sometimes people think their action alone is going to get them there, right? And there is so much that we are just not in control of. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of religious people, like, by the way, yes, faith is a huge part of who I am, but that's just a relationship I have.
Yeah.
I'm not religious, meaning I don't check. I started a book 10 years ago that I never finished called The Checklist Christian, where all these people that just check these external boxes, but they don't actually have a relationship.
Dude, that sounds like a really stupid book. for real, man.
So
you're speaking
the next
my
one
language.
Is exceptional relationships, man. Like Rick, I'm sure you have exceptional relationships. You know, I'm striving to improve my relationships and take relationships more serious.
Yeah.
The G, genuine impact, right? Going back to PIF, purpose, impact, fulfillment. Next is able finances. I'm not saying, Rick, we got to be billionaires or multimillionaires, just able finances for whatever it is that your financial future or your financial legacy you want to live. Just make sure that that's able, that can be accomplished.
Yeah.
Right. So able finances,
yep.
Cherished experiences, man, why live and do this life without some phenomenal experiences? And then lastly is you, right? Your mental health, your physical health. And so, yeah, that's what legacy is to me. At the end of the day, man, what are people going to say about me, as far as my eulogy? I want to be proud of what people say.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think so often, and sorry to be so long-winded, because usually I don't talk this many words in a row, but I think that we so often relate success and legacy to money.
For sure.
And can I say that money is a phenomenal tool, but money alone is not success or a legacy you can be proud of.
Yeah, it's used a lot as a like a measuring stick too, isn't it? Money is, and it's when I don't think that that's the case, except right when I look at it exactly how you're saying that money is a tool. So it's like if that tool can also be called a resource, right? An AKA is a resource. So it's like how much resources do I need? And money could be one of those, right? In order to take that action in faith to step into whatever legacy that I'm building for myself.
Yes.
So it's like
it's a powerful tool or resource.
For sure.
Bro. Like with money, I'm able to amplify the legacy I'm wanting to create. Right.
On. And I'm not getting into politics.
Stuff.
Exactly.
That's what can I do for other people, right? What can pass on from generations? And like Rick, people probably point at you all the time and say, dude, he's super successful, right? Or point at me and say he's super successful. And can I tell you that money or title alone has very little to do with success? Is that, man, I was worth a lot of money in my 20s and I lost a lot of it most all of it in the Great Recession, but everybody thought I was successful. And can I tell you, bro, I was the ultimate failure because my wife hated me. My kids didn't know me. My health sucked. I had money, but every other pillar of my life was pitiful. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, thankfully, I figured it out because I wouldn't have been proud of that legacy.
Yeah, right on. Dude, I appreciate you being vulnerable that way. Yeah, I don't like to get it, as we're on the topic of money. There's a reason, and I'm not getting political yet. Okay, we might go that way on the show. I don't know. But it's like there's a reason why in politics, when you're looking at, and it's appropriate for this year because it's an election year, the campaign funds, right? It's looked at as a quote unquote war chest, or even with acquiring companies like me, it's like, hey, how big is your war chest? Because I think it's actually kind of a healthy way to look at it, because when you look at it like that, it's a resource. Using that kind of phrase, it's a resource. Like, cool, how big is our war chest? Which means how fast for me in business, how fast can I execute on my plan?
Yes.
Or if, like you said, if I look at politicians, at least in the way that they're supposed to be, to where they're impacting and influencing millions in a very positive way. Again, I'm looking at them as how they should be, right? I'm not saying that they actually are. It's the bigger the war chest that they have, you mentioned something that it would be the greater amount that they can amplify their message.
Yes. But okay, let's look at this, going back to legacy. Money is a resource, money is a tool, money is a multiplier or an amplifier of whatever your message or your purpose is. But I would take it a step further and say some people use it to amplify that. If I'm to be brave in my communication right now, they use it to amplify, I think, a legacy when they're on their deathbed that they won't actually be proud of. Wow. They're actually amplifying a negative legacy, not a positive legacy. So it's an amplifier, but not always used for the good, right?
For sure, man. Yeah.
Definitely political.
I like how you broke it down, right? And go into something really kind of practical with giving each letter kind of its own meaning in the word too. I've always looked at legacy as something that outlives you, something that is beyond who you are, but is tied directly to who you are. So it's tied directly, but yet it's also beyond, you know. So it's like you mentioned a eulogy, and I start to think about that. And I believe that fits within how I see it, something that lives beyond, because the memory of you lives beyond you.
Amen.
Right? And it's also you can look at different things, right? Some people had somebody, a coach of mine one time, he goes, I want to know how to get a statue of myself somewhere. And I'm like, what, dude? I'm like, he's like, that's like the ultimate celebrity. And I'm like, all right, that's interesting. I'm like, well, let's explore that for a moment, shall we? What do you have to do to get a statue of you? But then I like within the context of our conversation, Cody, it's like, that is almost just a statue of you somewhere would almost be like a visualization of the legacy that you created while you were alive, because there's a reason why that statue exists. And it has nothing to do with just how good you look, right? Yeah. I mean, you and I look pretty good. Our statues would probably look pretty good, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rick, I mean, that's yes. There's probably statues. Well, I know there's statues that exist of individuals or symbols that you are, and it's definitely a legacy tied to that statue that lives beyond them. But I'm just so focused on creating a legacy that I'm proud of.
Yeah, right on.
And I think a lot of those statues and what that legacy is tied to that individual is probably a legacy that you or I wouldn't be proud of.
Yeah.
You know, so a statue alone doesn't mean I'm going to be proud of the legacy, right? You know, so I don't know, just something to think about. But it's, you know, it's like go back to the eulogy for a second. People lie or play in the gray
with the eulogies.
Right? With the eulogies.
Yeah.
Like, let's get, I did this exercise years ago and I need to do it again.
We could be benign, right? I get humor involved in this too. It's like,
but bro,
he will be remembered forever in the eulogy. Well, no kidding.
Like my eulogy, in my 20s was, I mean, if I was to be honest, and it was a truthful eulogy, is that the dude's a complete douchebag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, so yeah, it's interesting.
I'll write the most benign eulogy and I'll sell it as like a coaching program or something like that. Like how to write a benign eulogy when you don't like the person or something.
Yes.
I love it. He will be remembered forever. Long will he remain in our hearts. I mean, our heads. I don't know. I mean, I could go on forever. Anyways, I'm getting back on track. But that's what you're saying though, is like even a legacy. Like a legacy can actually be a negative thing as much as it can be a positive thing. The only memory the only thought I had come to my head is when I was filming a movie a long time ago. I was in a city town. I was going to say city town, but I don't know which one. Something like that in Virginia. And I can't remember the name of the town or the city. But it was a lot of historical references in Virginia to the Civil War. And I saw some statues of people on the horse. I can't remember the guy. Oh my gosh. And it was horrible. It was somebody really, really big during the Civil War. It wasn't like General Lee or anything like that. But I'm looking at this and it's like, there's a lot of bad crap that was tied to this dude. As I'm like to the point to where, and I'll have to look it back up to where we were making sure not to get the statue of this person in the frame of the video. As we were filming around this historical site, and it was the video was about the pandemic and government overreach and all that, but it was like there was just so many bad things. And sure, our country has that part of a bloodied past from about 170 something years ago. But in there's still statues of those individuals that are still up in certain states that are in the southern portion of the United States. Yes. And I saw them like we can't put that guy. We have to interview. We have to turn the camera this way because of what's tied to him. And I was just surprised. I'm seriously going to have to look it up now because I can't remember. Why is that statue still up?
Yeah. And if it was in your video, whether you like it or not, you might be guilty by association.
Yeah, that was exactly it. Right on. That was exactly the point. And I could understand if it was still up, for a reason of like, hey, let's remember the bad stuff, right? So we don't go there again. But I don't think that was the case of this individual. Because now you look at that scenario, but then it also comes to like tombstones, right? And what you were saying, if you see something like beloved mother, well, what was she?
Yeah, was she really?
Exactly. Yeah. Or is it just factual stuff?
Or did you just get that one-liner out of the book, right? Like, yeah.
Right on. It's like, what do you want? I heard the question one time, and this is like to put the nail in the coffin, so to speak. It's such a funny pun for what we're talking about right now. I make myself laugh, man. But it's like,
that's good. It's good to make yourself
what
laugh.
would you want on your tombstone? What would you want people to say about you when they're at if it's a funeral, celebration of life, service, whatever it is? What would you want people to be saying about you?
Yeah. So here again, not to go too deep into my faith, but I have this thing 7 by 7. So I get 7 daily habits done by 7 a.m. Okay. And one of those is journaling. And part of my journaling is I journal my prayers, right? Like what I'm praying about. And one of the things I pray about daily is being a godly man, right? Like I have a desire as a part of my legacy to be seen as a godly man, right? It's just important to me.
I love that. So when people are celebrating their memories of you at your funeral or whatever memorial service, you want them to say about you, Cody was a godly man.
Yeah, he was imperfect and he did a lot of dumb stuff.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, he was a godly man.
And that's okay, because that's just being human, right?
Amen to that.
That's perfectly okay. It's also interesting because it's when you're thinking about legacy, it's maybe an inverse, like if we can flip it for people listening. If you're at that point, think about the things that you would say about that person right now. Like in this moment in life, because there's still a lot of time between now and probably when they're going to depart, to where they can grow, they can change, they can shed some bad things about them. But if you started to look at somebody right now, be like, what has this individual done? What has he defined? What has she defined about himself? And started down the path of creating what kind of legacy in this moment?
Amen.
And it's like,
I think, there's 2 versions of the eulogy.
Yeah.
What it is today versus what you want it to be.
That's incredibly deep,
there's your
man.
path, right?
Yeah, I love this conversation. This is fantastic.
Can I tell you, I want to be vulnerable with you for a second, okay?
Yep.
So a friend of mine asked me, I don't know, several months ago, he said, Cody, who are you? And I stopped for about 5 seconds. And literally word for word, this is what came out of my mouth. And I'm going to read it to you. And it's not that long. And the reason this has everything to do with my legacy. Okay? Let me read this to you really quick. Who are you? I'm a broken little boy that's being very intentional and purposeful about pivoting the legacy of my family. Actually, it says my last name, so that same little boy doesn't show up in future generations.
Wow.
Right? Like, I want to pivot
the
legacy of my last name.
That's so cool.
If I can accomplish that, man, life good, well lived.
I want to hear this, and I hope that we know each other 10 years from now, because I want to hear that same thing and how it's evolved over the next 10 years.
Amen to that.
Because I know that, and I'm going to challenge you on this, and also for everybody listening, right? Because I believe, from what I see in you, what I hear from you, that you've already started down that path.
Mm-hmm.
And that you have probably accomplished a lot of what you just wrote down already.
Mm-hmm.
There might still be some more things, and I don't know what those are. And I don't want to get into a therapy session with you today. That's a bit of a joke. But dude, you can see it in your eyes that you've already made those shifts, because you started talking about yourself years ago, when you're in your 20s, and how you quote unquote lost everything, and how you were not that great of a person at that point. You had a lot of money, but you had all these other things that would have made you not remembered in the right kind of way, right? The eulogy at that time period. And I see you who you are today. Something tells me you need this today, man. You need to hear this. I don't know what this is, dude, for real, but it's just what I'm feeling right now. And I think you've already done a lot in the last, we'll say 16 years or so, to do exactly what you had already written down on paper. And I'm not going to say that you've arrived.
Good, man. That's good.
I'm not going to say that you have arrived, but you've got, I bet you're further along. What you just said to me, no one's
ever said to me before. And I'm a pretty quick processor, pretty decisive. And And if I was one, thank you for those words. Like that was inspiring, uplifting. And I don't care who you are. It always is good. And it always, like, we all need those types of words. Yeah. Thank you. And sure, if I was to be honest, if I got ran over by a bus today, I've already accomplished what's written on that piece of paper.
Yeah.
But here's what I know. You and I will never arrive.
100%. Right? You got it.
Like, I want to be sprinting till the day I die. Like, one of my convictions is I did the whole lifestyle business thing. That's like this thing everybody desires these days. And
well, that's just because it looks pretty from the outside.
Yeah, right. But I'm convinced the Lord doesn't like lazy.
Yeah.
Let me take it a step further. The Lord gave you gifts and he gave me gifts. And we're to utilize those gifts to create that legacy that we can be proud of, to create the PIF, the purpose, impact, fulfillment. And so I have this desire. Tim Tebow and I have kind of become, I guess, friends lately. And one thing Tim said to me that I absolutely loved is he said, dude, I'm gonna show up to heaven tired. I'm sprinting all the way to the end. And I just love that because I think we have the responsibility to utilize our gifts till the day we die.
Right on. And that's how it will forever be. Dude, this has been awesome. I do want to thank you for being a veteran also. You're not a veteran. You're a veteran land developer. Did I just read that wrong?
Yeah, I'm a veteran land developer, but I have tons of respect for veterans.
Dude, I'm glad it's you. That was probably like my biggest gaffe I've ever had on this show, for real. That's hilarious. I just saw a 20-year veteran. Who got me this sheet? This is being thrown away. Okay, anyway. That's great. I'm glad we could end it laughing, man, because that's funny. I do very much appreciate our armed forces. That's why I wanted to bring it up when I saw that. Too. I just didn't read the next word. Oh, man. Well, whatever. I hope somebody sound bites me on that someday, because it's like,
that's funny.
Part of my legacy is the same thing, right? I want people to understand that I'm human, right? And even in the midst of all the success, there were all the faults that I had to continue to overcome every single day of my life in order to be a better human, a better man, a better person to everybody that I come in contact with. So, brother,
love that, man.
Thank you.
Love that.
Thank you for coming on. This was great. You bet.
So good.